So we are now day 18 of Donald Trump's government shutdown. These are the headlines then. This government shutdown could be the longest ever, maybe running until Thanksgiving. What might the economic damage be? I want to give you the latest on this, and let's jump right in. So the current bet at the moment is 43 days. Well, 43.2 if I look at one bet. And I've seen other places where people are betting it's going to be over 35. Again, the record is Trump. 35 days for longest government shutdown, and I guess he wants to break his own record. There's a couple things that could stop the shutdown. So one would be healthcare, okay? So November 1st is when open enrollment begins for Obamacare, and essentially will Trump's base, right, people that live in the red states, will they figure it out that, oh my God, this government shutdown, Trump's policies hurt me, I in fact hurt everybody. Because the way Trump and the Republicans try to sell it is like, hey, stick with us because we're just going to hurt the blue states, and that's a good thing, right? Let's punish those blue states. And Trump is basically on a revenge tour. You can see it with he wants to prosecute his political enemies and again attack blue states, blue cities. And I guess his base is like, oh, okay, as long as you hurt the blue people, I guess I'm okay with that. But and it's a ridiculous philosophy, but that's their point of view. But when they realize, wow, in fact, it's going to hurt everyone, and Trump's is interested in helping himself, maybe they'll start calling the reps and turn this thing around quickly. After that, then you got the December 31st would be the, they call it here the true deadline, meaning when the subsidies run out, because again, we're talking about healthcare. And then, theoretically into January when they really figure it out. But then the thing is, though, you've already passed open enrollment. It could be a real mess. So healthcare could be one of the sticking points that really affect people in the red states to start calling up the Republicans to get their butts back to D.C. And get back to work. You also got this, which is basically airport delays, right? So delays at airports because of staffing shortages are also viewed as something that could bring about the end to the shutdown, which is a real thing that people have to deal with. You hear about shortages of air traffic controllers, and then the way the system works, you have a delay at one airport. It affects all airports, and anyone who's ever flown, say during a storm at something like that. And in this case, this is the Trump storm is basically shutting everything down. And then you have real effects on the economy. So this was an interesting way to look at it. It says here, a range of economists that have given estimates how much of the current shutdown will subtract, right, take away from the U.S. economic growth for each week that it persists. They've generally put the hit at 0.1% or 0.2% per week. So you can actually calculate how much our, basically economic activity drops each week that this thing goes on. And all the polling data that I've been seeing basically say the majority blame Trump and the Republicans for what's going on. So the Republican strategy is so strange in this one. Again, their strategy is let's just keep attacking blue cities, blue states, and hope that our base really likes it, that we punish the blue areas of the country, which that's in my opinion, is a terrible strategy. If you want good leadership, you want people to unify, and you also would want to help as many people as you can, not like talking about, and this is from Trump and Russ Vogt's point of view, they treat this shutdown as an opportunity to fire people. They use the word opportunity, which is crazy, or they'll use the word like pain. We need people to feel pain, and this is just insane. You'll see the pain in the, I guess that's what Trump wants, in the markets, right? So we have a bank scare going on at the moment. No one knows how big this is going to be. Essentially, and I keep calling it shadow economy. You call it whatever you want. But when Trump is cracking down essentially on workers, right? Be it federal workers, be it immigrant workers, and people aren't going to work. That's basically the end here. What happens to all the money that they owe their lenders? Or the money that they need to pay their landlords, or any number of things, right? Things stop moving around and things break. And so that's what you're seeing happening. We already had a couple bankruptcies, Tricolor, then you had First Brands. Then it turns out that a lot of these bad loans were, how can you say, repackaged, and then sold to other people. Some of the banks are going to claim, I was defrauded. There's fraud here, fraud there. And then the list goes on and on how many people are and funds are affected. I've seen lists as high as like 80, and it just keeps getting bigger. And then there's concerns about international exposure. And essentially it started with auto loans and subprime, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And then while that's going on, as I've been sharing with you guys, the USA is like, hey, we're going to bail out Argentina. For real. Like, it sounds so stupid. The whole thing is dumb. The shutdown itself is dumb. And again, Trump's strategies hurt the blue states. Then you got bail out Argentina. Then when Trump always claims, 90 deals in 90 days, but it's like, you can't even get a deal with China. And there's been real disputes on that. So I guess Besant, and he's busy. He's bailing out Argentina. He's meeting with China. That was here. Just reported Besant and Chinese vice premier to meet to try to defuse U.S. tariff hike because Trump is threatening 100% tariffs on China. And then you got Trump trying to start a war with Venezuela. It's honestly really hard to keep track of all this stuff. And again, this is all during the shutdown. So I guess they destroyed submersibles, what they say. This must be number 6 or 7 that I keep losing track because it's so much. And they've killed at least 27 people. Now, this was an unusual one because we have survivors. The Navy picked up 2 people. I saw this flash on my phone. I'm like, what the heck? And then it said that they're going to return the people back to their countries. So one was from Colombia, one was from Ecuador. I honestly don't know what to make of this stuff. I keep saying the truth of this. I just don't know what to make of this because Trump's claiming that these are dangerous people. I've heard one claim that at least one person could have been a fisherman, I guess you could say. It's honestly hard to say about any of this stuff because the evidence gets destroyed. Basically, Trump disappears people. Now, this one, though, where they're going to return people back to their home countries, we're going to see. And I was reading about this. This was talking about the stuff you could learn from this. I'll read it. It says, submersibles which glide just below the surface of the water are sometimes used by drug traffickers in South America. So this is why this one's interesting. Because it can carry far more cargo than speedboats, because the other ones that the Trump have been hitting have been speedboats, and there was some situations where like there's a lot of people on the boat, which didn't really make sense if indeed that is some sort of drug mule. And also just in any of these situations, the Navy could just basically blockade. If you're really doing this stuff, shoot out the engines. Right, we have capability to do that. We don't just have to just blow it up. But in this situation, again, there were survivors. Also says here, the captains of submersibles are not typically connected to higher echelons of gangs. Their cell phones and other evidence pointing to the people who hired them are usually the most valuable to law enforcement and naval officers. So, said a naval officer. So I'll be curious if we do ever hear what these people have to say, because you do want to hear about this stuff, right? And then you have this, people are panicking. Right? So while Trump's destroying the economy and trying to spend yet more money while we're all shut down, you have people panicking around the world. I've been seeing the gold keeps going up in value every day, or price. Price is a better way to say it. Value is a relative term. We'll say price. And then I guess silver in India is sold out, which is kind of crazy. And I'd like to hear from people in your communities, if you've been hearing about silver and gold being really popular. So this was a quote from India. Most people who are dealing silver and silver coins, they're literally out of stock because silver is not there. This kind of crazy market where people are buying at these levels, I have not seen it in my 27-year career. That's someone from India saying this. And I want to point this out also because I think what gets lost often when you watch the YouTubers or see what Trump is saying, et cetera, is just what are regular people's experiences with the economy, jobs. This is what people care about, right? They care about taking care of their family, putting food on the table. People at home aren't sitting there going, wow, I really hope we bail out Argentina, or wow, I really hope we start wars with Venezuela and spend billions down there. Like, no one's saying that, right? This is Trump people trying to convince you how awesome that would be, but it's not awesome. This is what real people are facing. So here's an example. My family is having a crisis. My mom added my brother to her mortgage. He stopped paying. How does she get him off, right? And this is the kind of stuff that happens. There may be, and say in your family, the majority is doing okay, but there could be one family that's just really, really struggling. And that's sort of how that appears, say, in unemployment. To say, for example, the unemployment number is around 4, you could argue the real unemployment is closer to 9 to 10, whatever unemployment is, you could say the real one's like more like double that, because you could, look at people who are underemployed, meaning that you have a job, but it doesn't give you that many hours, it just doesn't pay enough. And, it depends on which category and in which part of the country. But either way, oftentimes in a family, there'll be at least one or two family members that are really struggling, and then other family members have to pitch in. So this is what people are facing. And let me read this scenario, and I'll be curious if anyone in the community also faces this kind of scenario in this economy. My family's having a crisis. My mom, a widow, lives alone in our family home. She is 80 and cannot live unassisted. There are 5 of us kids in the family, and we are all doing well financially, except the youngest. This brother, his wife, and 5 children were living in a 3-bedroom apartment and receiving help from the government. My mom and the youngest brother entered into agreement that he move his family into her house and take care of her until she dies. She got a second loan on the house for materials for him to fix it up and finish the unfinished basement. Also, my mom agreed to put my brother and his wife on the mortgage. He would pay the mortgage and she would pay the utilities and insurance on the house. And then I'm sure you guys understand this in family situations. What if someone doesn't keep up their end of the bargain, which can happen and does happen? Or even if, right, in all fairness, even if, say, someone wanted to keep up their end of the bargain, due to Trump's layoffs and Trump's, crackdowns and Trump wanting to put pain on people, things happen, right? So when I read through this scenario, this is a very real scenario, and I can just tell you, in my wife's family, my wife's grandma is very old, and actually, grandma, there's a couple grandmas. This is how it plays out. I think they might be in the same hospital, and I think there's even an uncle, which is they're kind of the older generation. So there's 3 elderly that they're in essentially an older person's home, and that stuff's expensive. I think you guys know this. This stuff's expensive, and the argument in the family is like, who's gonna shoulder the burden of that. And then will grandma live with someone in the family? I think they used to, but then now grandma's in a home. It's too hard because she had a fall. I'm just telling you about my wife's family, and I'm just saying, like, these are real concerns that regular families have, and people like Trump have no concept of these kind of things that people face. That's why I mentioned healthcare or jobs, like stuff that affects your daily life. Or you want to talk about food costs. Trump doesn't even know what a grocery store is. Basically, it's like groceries. That's an old-fashioned term, and he really did say that, and he said it more than once. And it's crazy because then you see the stuff. The shutdown is stretching on. Trump doesn't seem to mind, right? That's the stuff that you see, and then whenever you check in on Trump, is like, oh, we have to attack Venezuela, and I authorize the CIA to use lethal force. And I try to give you guys a fuller picture on everything. And like I said, I think a lot of times when you watch the Twitterverse, you lose sight of just what are the regular problems that families face, and does current leadership address those kinds of problems? So, for example, in this situation, like, this is where making sure you have an economy that works for everyone, right? Job opportunities, affordable healthcare, affordable housing. That's the kind of stuff that people care about, and that's the kind of stuff that helps these people. And then you also involve education. Get more education, then your kids have a better opportunities, right? And you make better choices in your life. And the list goes on how you can benefit all of society by, again, helping all of us, not just having a policy that is like, well, I'm just going to attack the blue states and red states will do okay because I said so. But it's not going to turn out that way, guys, because we're all connected. So that's my thoughts on this. I would like to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.